Ube's made me mad one time, very bad. On my own place.
Part of it is being German.
Yes.
It's not as soft as some people. Not as soft. as
Overly
we-
direct.
A little more than I wanted.
Yes, that's a nice way to put that. Plus your fun. No, that's. She worked for the military.
I didn't know.
All right, is everybody ready?
It's called the church. It's direct.
All right, let's get started. Time being 9:01 a.m. on January 19th, 2023. I'd like to call this meeting to order of Kane County Public Service Committee. Clerk, please call the roll.
Gums,
Gums here.
Lewis, Sturgis, Tepe,
Pepe here.
Williams,
Williams present.
Young,
Young here.
Sanchez.
Sanchez present.
You have quorum.
If someone could please ask for unanimous consent to approve the minutes of December 22nd, 2022.
So moved by
Gums will move.
Tepe moves. Any disagreement with that? Any suggested changes? None. The minutes are approved. Public comment. Is anyone here in person or online who wishes to deliver a public comment at this time? I'm very surprised by that. Where is everybody? I'm new to this committee. Finance, any questions or comments on the monthly finance report? All right, well, let's go to the recorder's office. Who do we have? Anybody from the recorder's office? No. Okay. Well, their report is on file. If you have any questions, Ms. Wegman will take those. Treasurer.
Okay,
Mr. Laws.
thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Let's see, several things occurred in the last month I'd like to report on. We did submit our written report about a week to 10 days ago. We had the pleasure of hosting the tax group with Mark Armstrong and his staff, John Erickson and the clerk's staff, Maria Herrera and Cindy Christopher from our office, and then Tammy Kavanaugh from the Kane County Assessors Association. And the purpose, very ably led by Mark Armstrong, was to coordinate schedules and to talk about the very good Kane County Quick Guide Property Tax Report, something very useful for our constituents. As I had mentioned at the last meeting, our promised priorities are a smooth operation, significantly more interest income, and then useful financial information for taxpayers and the board. Along those lines, we sent out an RFP, and I'd like to have Maria and Cindy and Michelle stand up during this portion of the presentation, because these are the people who are responsible for the good work that was done for 26 years, for about 9 years, and about a little more than a year in Cindy's case. But the RFP is the lockbox and the printed tax bills. Very important to get that information out. But the second project that is very important is improving online payments of the property taxes. And Blair, if you could put up the quick presentation. I'm sorry, there's too many slides, but I'll go through them really quickly. And this is perhaps more for the record. And my appeal to all of you as board members and as county staff members to build the use of this system once we have it in place within about 60, 90 days. But the idea is convenience, naturally, and then strategic improvement of services. No lines to pay bills, no necessary lines to pay bills. If you go to the next one, the goals that were established by these three ladies as they went out and boiled down the competition to serve our constituents by a couple of vendors were these goals: to increase the online payments, to spread out the payment, reduce preventable customer service phone calls, achieve close to 100% on-time collection efficiency, and then choose a vendor, keep Kane County ahead of the curve. And then there's a couple of detailed kinds of problems that really do end up, if we don't stop the problem early, it takes 10 times the amount of work to correct it. So next slide. There were some very, these come out of the presentations that were given by the two finalists in the competition. We're looking for a simple system anybody can use. I'll be like the test program. I mean, there are people in this room who know how if you can get a system that I can operate, then it's become foolproof. So too many screens. Basically, Michelle got to the point of the current system that we have, just the payment portion is 5 screens. You have to go through 5 screens just to get it done. And under the improved system that's will be put in place when we get everything lined up, the whole system is 5. So our intention is to have an Amazon standard ease of use, and that's what these ladies are putting into place. And then again, Michelle, we get 10 million phone calls from people who don't know what they're doing. And that would be like somebody like me calling in. But there are other reasons. If you could go to the next. One of the first things, none of us would use a system that's not secure. And so making sure that both of the finalists met all these security requirements was important. The next slide. To have a receipt, you think, well, how important? Well, I think that there are probably people in this room who have gone to the room right next door to see these fine ladies to get a receipt because they want to know that an expense that's the cost of a car, in our youth, that they actually got the payment made. So the receipt becomes very important. It needs to be something that's easily readable. Next one. A little bit more detail on this, but basically what will change behavior is not only motivation and incentivizing people, more fuel into the kind of behavior that we would like to encourage, but also less friction. So the more we can cut down on problems, the more we can make it easy and convenient for people, the more it's going to be adopted, it's going to be used. Next slide. Very successful. I mean, and this, as you can see from the bottom left-hand side, the firm Invoice Cloud, and then let's see, Auto Agent were the 2 finalists. Even Invoice Cloud, the adoption rate, very positive. When this is done right, and it's encouraged by the whole organization, we can have very good adoption rates. Next one. Another example specifically of the kind of improvements that take place, in this case, James City County Treasurer's Office. Next one. So the group that has been selected, and it was a very close call. I think who is it? It was Dale Berman over in the Finance Committee, chairman, has said that when we present things to the board, it's good to have a couple of alternatives and then why it is that you came to the conclusion. Well, I generally was leaning in the direction of the unsuccessful candidate, but these ladies every day, 8 hours a day, are dealing with the system. And so frankly, their opinion means more their conclusions, their expert advice means more. What was so good about Auto Agent is that we're already using Auto Agent for the real estate tax services from the banks. So when the escrow companies, almost half of our payments, it's about 47, 49%, half of our payments come through the banks and come to us through Auto Agent. So Maria and Michelle and Cindy are already working with them. They have a trusting both ways relationship, very important. So this is an extension of their current services to the individual taxpayers. Next slide. This is just a list of some of the people who they already do business with. Mark Armstrong would recognize, and Blair and Roger Fonstock would recognize how important it is that the system dovetails with DevNet, which is tracks what the parcels are so that it's easy to look them up, easy to see where yours is, easy to see the amount, and then easy to pay it. Next slide. So these are some of the advantages of the auto agent, and they're substantial and they were decisive. And again, I'd like to thank Maria and Michelle and Cindy. Maria in charge of collections, Michelle able assistant, and then Cindy in charge of customer service. Next slide. During the presentation, the national sales manager who is giving the Zoom presentation said, we are the only ones who use this or have this kind of capability, and we have a patent. Now, when I heard that they have a patent in the financial field, I'm sorry, I was skeptical. I just didn't believe it. Well, I think it was Maria looked up, and we also asked the person who had made the claim, and sure enough, these folks are so deep into the technology that the owner of the firm does hold a patent, and they proved it up by giving us a copy. So that was excellent. Next slide. Then when they came to the end and they wanted to articulate, it's not just sitting around the, the water cooler, the, coffee cup in hand. They actually marked down the pros and cons of each of the candidates so that anybody who wanted to look at, well, what was it? How did we go about the decision? It would be on one sheet of paper. Next one. I included this one here just because I liked the innovation, the two types of existence we can have with systems. One is constant improvement from, buggy to car to jet. The other one is you just continue to do it the same old way. Next one. We don't want to be this, the dinosaur. Next. This is one of the final decisions that'll be made, but I think we're leaning in the direction of continuing to do what we've done in the past, which is no so-called convenience fee or automation fee. But I think that this chart and the whatever they call the regression analysis, I'd ask Mark Armstrong to fill in that blank. But I think that this proves up that it is okay to charge a fee and still have adoption. However, I think that, you all as board members and members of the Kane County staff hear all the time, isn't that what I already pay my taxes for? So why are you charging me another fee? So I think our conclusion from our experts in actually using the system is going to be, let's just continue where we don't have that fee. And I think that was the final slide. Next one, Blair. Okay, good. Okay, so I'd like to thank you ladies for doing the good job in the analysis. And I'd like to report to the committee that, the conclusion or the decisions made to go with the auto agent. And now we're going through the process of the state's attorney's office is going over the contract, and we're putting together the implementation, which should take 30, 45 days. So thanks, ladies. See if there's anything else.
Can I ask a question?
I think that, yes,
Are you-
open for questions.
Ms. Lewis?
So maybe I didn't have enough coffee yet this morning, but has this gone through and the money has been approved and all that stuff? And we saw how much we're going to save in the automation of this?
We're already doing it. This would just be a system improvement. The answer to the first question is yes.
Okay,
The money has always got to be there. This will end up being an improvement.
yeah, okay,
And therefore a savings. Has it been quantified? No,
okay. I was just curious.
but we'll keep you posted. That's a very
Perfect.
important.
I knew you
question.
would.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yep.
Chris, you said that about half the property tax payments come through the bank. Do the banks charge us a fee for processing those tax payments, or is that a service to their customers?
It's a good question. I'll ask people who know. Maria, could you speak loudly in answer to that? Thank you.
It's a service.
Just identify yourself to the microphone.
Maria
please.
Herod.
Thank you.
Chief Deputy Treasurer. There's no fee in questions to.
Yeah, that microphone you
All
kind of
right.
have to get right on.
There is no fee with auto agent. Their proposal is to continue with the same fees that we currently have. And so the county does not pay anything. is the user. And there's no fee for when they do e-check. And for the credit card, there's a 2.35% is what is proposed at this time, and it's the current fee as well. And for the lockbox, is that a question in regards to the lockbox in the bills?
No, but
No, I don't think at this stage.
So there is no fee, no cost to the county at all.
Does that answer the question, Rick?
Well, I guess the question was if I go to the bank and pay my taxes at the bank, does the bank charge the county a handling fee for submitting the payments to
No,
us?
we have banks.
No.
Banks that collect for us, branches, they do it as a service to the customer.
Okay.
And for the like payments that come through auto agents are coming through the mortgage company to auto agent to us. And there's no fee to the county as well.
Thank you.
In the end, a newer person, a lay person at this, in the end, when people, so that's one way that they pay through the banks, and that's about 47.8% of the payments that come in. So call it 50% of the payments that come in. If they do it on the internet, basically it takes two forms, and correct me if I'm wrong, but just in general statement, it either can go on a credit card, but generally when people find that, well, that costs me 2.35%, as Maria said, they usually take the second option with it, which is an e-check. So an electronic check that pulls it out of the person's bank account. That has no charge. One of the competitors in this competition did charge a fee, but so the e-check is zero. So, but the credit card is 2.35, not paid for by the county, but paid for by the person who uses that facility. Okay. By the way, in the Mark Armstrong tradition of very good statistics, Michelle put together a chart of that goes back about 15 years of what percent, what are the sources of how people pay their property taxes going back 15 years. And you'll find that 17% on this chart of the individual tax payments, 17% are paid by the internet, or, over the internet. But because I think a better reading of what these statistics mean is when the bank says you're going to have to pay your money through the escrow, you pay your money through the escrow. So that is 50%. So the relevant statistic, that 17%, it's on the individual decisions that are made to pay online. So that 17% basically goes to 34%. One of the things that one of the two companies emphasized was the marketing approach of, well, you can have the best system in the world, but if nobody is using it, what good is it? And I think that that's true. So, but it's also true that you have to have a really good system, and then you need to market it, as all of us would need to do here to get adoption. Then internally, we need to set some goals. So over the next 4 years, we're hoping to double the use of the online. So we hope to move it from, half of people who pay individually, that represents 34% of the individual decisions of how to pay. That 34% would go to 68%. Now, that is just taking a dart, to the dartboard. Nobody's going to die if we don't make it, but that's internally, that's what we're going to be working toward. We would ask for board members, and it is a real benefit. I know that this year I'll be using the system. That'll be the first. And again, if I can use it, anybody can use it. And if all of us trust the system enough to do it online, and when we get the receipt and we have all the assurances of security, then, it leads the way. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions or comments on this one? I did want to say, I like the approach you took in this process, leaning heavily on the expertise of your employees that are in the trenches every day. I'm a big fan of that type of decision-making. It seems that because we're already using that service, this would be a potentially significant cost savings as compared to going with the other vendor. Was that
It was, in the end, you know, their pricing systems are so opaque that it's like hard to really figure out how they're making their money. Our concern is how much is the taxpayer going to have to pay? And how much is the county going to have to pay? With the county, it's basically zero. And the constituent has a chance to make it zero by using e-check online. So,
All right, and
Mr.
maybe
Chairman,
consider,
I had
Mr. Young.
Question. Yes, this is
Go ahead.
David Young. Chris, this is David Young. I had a question. I'm looking at a property bill right now, and it doesn't show anywhere on this my property bill where I could pay online. Are you going to make sure that obviously you print that you can go to a certain website to pay this online? I mean, that would be the first way of marketing this, is make sure you detail it on the individual's tax bill.
makes good sense. I appreciate the suggestion, and we are going to go through a whole program of making it known and then easy to use.
Mr. Armstrong.
I want to add that what's been done by past treasurers, which I'm going to hope the new treasurer continues, is there's a letter that goes out in each tax bill. One side of the letter is from me, and the other side of the letter is from the treasurer. Mine typically goes on things like what to do if there's a missing exemption, or if you have a question about the accuracy of the assessment. The treasurer's side always includes that exact information about how to pay, including how to pay online. The best part about including it in the tax bills is it does not increase mailing costs. I think at the original time that this was done back in like 2008, the cost was something like $200 to get the entire county. I can't think of any way to put things in the hands of the entire county for only $200. So that's why with that kind of efficiency, I hope we're going to continue.
Excellent. Oh, and Mr. Lawson, if you could please send this presentation to the committee members so that
Yes.
we have it for a file.
Good. That's good. May I ask a question of Blair? We emailed this over to presentations at the Kane, Illinois, US. Does that mean that we can then send it from there to the committee members?
I would recommend that I can't send from that, but it does come to my personal.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'll send it out to you and all the members.
Excellent. I appreciate it. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you, Mr. Lawson. Supervisor of Assessments, Mr. Armstrong.
Good morning, everyone. My report is begins on page 38 of your packet. I do want to have one correction. In reviewing it, I see a typo right in my first paragraph where I talk about the final filing deadline for assessment appeals to the Property Tax Appeal Board. I have January 20th. That should be January 30th. The deadline date by statute is 30 days from the date of the notice. The notices were mailed on December 30th. Of course, 30 days from that is January 29th. But pursuant to the Illinois State Statute on Statutes, which is a fake sounding, but I assure you an absolutely real act, if the final deadline falls on a date when that office is not open, then it's automatically extended to the next date the office is open. So that extends it to Monday, January 30th. So with all that, we also certified to the county clerk's office on January 6th. And at 371 days, it's one of our earliest certification dates in a long time. It's our second earliest certification date in the last 35 years. But what I found was interesting, by the way, 2018 was the only date earlier in that period. To come back to a date that's earlier, that in the, we'll call them the before times, was 1988, when we were done in 362 days. But what I think is more interesting is just the workload of that time as opposed to this time. Given the parcel count in 1988, we had 112,297 parcels countywide. In 2022, we had 198,353. So that means it was the equivalent in 1988 of 310 parcels per day. The workload in 2022 was 536 parcels per day. That's a 73% increase with about half of the people working in the job. And I want to compliment my own staff and the township assessors as well for producing a very, very efficient tax cycle that still maintains accuracy. In all those years from 1980 to here, our state factor has been a 1. We'll get the results for 2022 shortly. We should have them by the next committee meeting. That said, there are certain things that sometimes have to be backburnered because of a lower staff and higher amounts. And so we're right now looking into processes regarding processing deeds. Now, when I say processing deeds, what I'm talking about is the requirement that my office maintain an accurate list of ownership names based on recorded information. Now, that could be as simple as I look at the deed, I see an owner, I'm transferring it. But as you might guess, we occasionally get deeds, and by occasionally, I mean actually a lot, several hundred a month, where something is off about it. It could be the legal description doesn't match the prior owner of the parcel, or it might be the grantor of the deed is not shown in ownership of the parcel at all. So we're not going to change the address of that parcel just yet. We want to establish what the correct deed should be. But there's a lot that involves in that tracking process. So what we're currently looking at, rather than increasing staff, which has ongoing and ever escalating costs, we're looking at vendors that can actually automate some of that process. When I was in Boston this summer at the IAAO conference, I saw a presentation from Boulder County, Colorado, a similarly sized county, that took its deed processing lag time from 6 months down to 4 days using an automated process. And so right now we're investigating that company, and we'll soon be working, putting an RFP out to make sure we get the best proposal for that type of service. And if that requires a budget adjustment, I'll be back to talk to you all about it. But that gives you a little bit of an early warning of what's to come on this, and what I think is probably the most efficient way to move forward with that information, and why it's in the best interest of everyone to do that. More on that when we're ready to go. But I don't like getting surprises, so I don't want to surprise you when that actually comes out. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that any member of the committee has.
Any questions for Mr. Armstrong?
Mr. Chair Gums.
Gums, go ahead.
I just want to thank both Mr. Lawson and Mr. Armstrong. Automation and ease of user is essential, and I think it's great work. And we don't want to turn that dinosaur. I think that was my favorite slide. But yeah, I think this is great. Thanks, guys.
You're very welcome.
Yes, automation always when we can, when it's good for us, but it seems it's only becoming more and more so as time goes on. So it's hard to avoid it. And I didn't want to point out that error in the date, so I'm glad that you brought it up, Mr. Armstrong.
I missed it.
That just goes to show you, I was focused so much on working with our new wonderful Legistar system that I didn't proofread this as closely as I should have.
Wonderful. And that's an adjective I haven't heard yet with the Legistar system.
I am trying to be positive.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. Regional Office of Education.
Good morning. I'm Phil Morris. I'm the Director of Operations and Tech for the regional office. Pat apologizes she can make it over this morning. She is meeting with all the district superintendents right now. So sometimes you call that I drew the short stick, or however you want to call it. Anyway, we have some good things going on at the office. One thing is our Institute Day registration is open. Institute Day is March 3rd. That is the one day that all school districts in the county are out for Institute Day. We are hosting a large session up at the Q Center. So we'll have probably, 3, 4, 5,000 teachers up there for that day in various different workshops and activities. That closes February 9th. I encourage you all to hit our website, knrw.org. If there's anything that you might be interested in attending that day, just contact our office and we'll let you come and hang out, see what it's like. Q Center is a great location to have these type of large events. Then also our Educator of the Year nominations are now open. And that event now is going into its 47th year. And so it's always a large event. That will be May 5th. And all of you will be invited to that as well. Those nominations are closing on March 17th. So if you know anybody, most of our districts are working on nominations now to get those in. But it's always a great night of celebration. And then a couple of little things in the kind of, I call it the operations and tech world. I do meet with the facility and safety people for our districts every month. And this month we met yesterday. And one of the nice things is representation from our own Office of Emergency Management was present. That's the first time that's been the case in many years. We work very closely, all of our school districts, on reunification planning. And that's a case where if we need to evacuate a school for any such reason, we have coordinated efforts amongst all of our districts. All of us are all trained in the same skills and can be called on to help if that's the case. Very proud of our Kane County districts on how well we are prepared for that unforeseen emergency situation we'd have to deal with. But we have various sites across the county set up for reunification with a process. We do actually, there's training every year that we use. So it's a model, a free model provided that was born out of Colorado. The model's called I Love You Guys, but it is a great model for reunification. Then the other thing is, it's kind of interesting hearing the others talk about building some efficiencies. One of my big jobs I do is work on efficiencies in our office. A little over a year ago, internally, we wrote our own permit system. All the school districts for all their building projects have to go through a permitting process. We took the state process, forms, everything. We built it internally, designed it. We implemented it last spring with all of our Kane County districts, allowing architects to log in, upload documents, districts log in, all the user rights. We have now completed the beta testing, and that system now we've been asked to look at going statewide with. So all regional offices in the state of Illinois will be offering up to use our system. So we do that for health, life, safety visits and for compliance already statewide. Again, systems that we designed internally and developed and wrote and keep up to date. So we are continuing to look at ways that we can remove the paper process, build efficiency while using technology securely and safely.
Excellent.
With that, any questions?
Any questions? The Regional Office of Education. Yeah, again, efficiencies are great. And you kind of answered my question about the facility and safety monthly meetings. That's because they need, you inspect the premises and approve the permits, I'm assuming then?
Yeah, we inspect every single building every fall. And we literally walk every single classroom during the school day to check for any type of, there's a full checklist. And that is all reported back. So it's a very tedious process. So we're at about 225 buildings right now in the county that we need to inspect. We do all those between September 1 and December 30th.
And how many staff members are engaged in that?
4.
So you guys keep busy. Every day.
It's every day, and it's 2 to 3 elementaries, 2 elementaries a day, 1 middle school a day, and a high school takes 2 people a full day. Yes, and when I talk about we open up every door is opened. Everything is looked at.
Interesting. All right, good to know. Any other questions? Gums, I see you have your hand up. Is that current?
Yeah, thank you. I'm just want to comment on those inspections. You know, over here in Aurora, we've had a couple of circumstances where there were discoveries of last minute situations that needed to be cleaned up or cleared up or fixed or something, and they did. The staff did an excellent job on that. You know, across the board, I think staff, those 4 people covering that many buildings are amazing, and they should be applauded for that. So, and I also just searched our the I Love You program, and there's a lot of information on that. So thank you for sharing that with us and the public as well.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much. Veterans Assistance Commission, Mr. Zimmerman.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The monthly report is in your agenda packets. Now that we've had a couple months to settle in here, I would like to go over that in just a little bit more detail, give you a good idea of what our office does and what we're trying to accomplish and what we're reporting here. The first chart you'll see on the first page, the top chart, the top 2 lines compares the average days pending for a VA claim, both filed by our office and the statewide average. So the blue number is the statewide average. The average Illinois veteran at the end of November was waiting 146 days for their disability claim. The red line is us. So the veterans that filed their claim through our office saw their claim adjudicated 15 days faster than average. Similarly, for the bottom 2 lines, same thing, but for VA non-service related pension benefits. These are benefits for indigent veterans, generally 65 or older, in nursing homes where their medical expenses are wiping out their income. So the average Illinois veteran was waiting 90 days to have those claims adjudicated. Our office was seeing those done in 31.5 days, so saving those indigent veterans almost 2 months in waiting time to get their benefits. The second chart, the bottom chart on the first page, shows the number of claims pending. The blue line is in the state of Illinois, and the red line is the veterans that we represent. So 15,000 claims pending total for veterans in the state of Illinois. 271 of those belong to our office. Just to give you an idea, in 2015, those numbers were 7,500 throughout the state of Illinois and 110 for our office. And I can tell you the December number, we went over 300. So we've almost tripled the amount of work we're doing with the same amount of staff since 2015 there. On the next page, the claims applications filed in the top left-hand corner. These are the major benefit categories that my office assists veterans with. We do more beyond this, which I'll explain in a second, but these are the major workload categories we have. So the disability compensation benefits, the blue numbers represent the year-to-date, if you will, before the reporting month, so through the month of October for fiscal year 2022, and the red number represents the new work for that month. Those are all good numbers, not quite record setting for our office, but they're up there. Disability compensation benefits are for veterans who had an injury or illness that they incurred in the line of duty, which includes toxic exposures. So things like radiation exposure, burn pits, Agent Orange, and the disabilities that come from those. The pension benefit, that's for indigent wartime veterans. The dependency indemnity compensation, or what's listed abbreviated there as dependence compensation, is for the surviving spouses of veterans who died of a service-related disability. So we filed those for the spouses too. Similarly, the survivor's pension, that's for indigent surviving spouses of wartime veterans. Healthcare applications, that's the veterans that we help get into the VA healthcare system using the clinic in both North Aurora, as well as the one in Hoffman Estates, and also the Hines VA hospital there. And then the number of appeals. So these are where our veterans disagree. We and our veterans disagree with the benefits. We file appeals there's 3 separate type of appeals. 2 are adjudicated at a lower level. A third is at the Board of Veterans Appeals before an administrative law judge. Our staff represents veterans before that law judge and assists them with their benefits and obtaining those benefits. The next chart, top right of the second page, shows the number of forms we completed. This is a good workload measure because when I talk about filing a disability compensation claim, that can be one form filed or it can be 6 forms that are filed. So not every claim is the same. Some are more complex than others. Again, the blue number represents through October of last fiscal year and red represents the new work for that month. The next chart down, the middle chart, is the amount of dollars received by our veterans for the new work that we did. The VA in this category, what we're reporting here, spends about $62 million in disability and pension payments in Kane County annually. So we contributed to an increase of $5.7 million last fiscal year to that amount. And the red amount is the month for November again, and then through October of the larger amount there. Financial assistance expenditures, that chart's blank, and that's pretty consistent through COVID, has been blank. That's due to the proliferation of COVID-related benefits that people can receive from the state of Illinois or whatever else. Our financial assistance program acts as a payer of last resort. So if there's a better mortgage benefit through the state of Illinois, which there was during COVID, or rental assistance, we help veterans get that benefit, and then we don't pay those dollars out, and that's what you see there. The final chart in my report is a spreadsheet, and that kind of shows all of the benefit categories that we help with. So, you know, some smaller things like military records requests, or getting veterans their discharge papers corrected if they're a mistake, educational benefits in here, state benefits, those are reported on that spreadsheet there. Also included this month is our annual report. You should have received a hard copy of that at the end of December, but I also included in the for the record here in this month committee, and I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have.
All right. Any questions or comments for the Veterans Assistance Commission?
Mr. Chair Gums.
Gums, go ahead.
Just another comment. I have referred several folks to you, you know, your division, and not a single person has ever come to me and said they weren't extremely satisfied. Your office is amazing, and everybody that I've referred over to you is very happy and thrilled. And I just wanted to, on their behalf, thank you. They're probably telling you in person, but they tell us as well. So thank you.
Thank you for that. We have an excellent staff that does a tremendous job.
And Jake, you guys cover services that the VA doesn't.
Yes.
How do the veterans find out about you guys? Does the VA send them your way, or?
That's a great question. So several different ways. One, we have social media, and we use Kane County Connects, that sort of thing. The Department of Veterans Affairs sends me, it's actually fairly interesting. We can request, and we do receive the addresses every 6 months, names and addresses of veterans who separated back to Kane County. So when they get out of the Army, the Air Force, they come back to Kane County. They literally send me sticky labels. That's it. These are the people that came back. They don't tell me where they're from, how long they served, if it was reserves or active duty. So we have a sort of generic letter with our brochure that we send out to everybody who gets discharged from the military. Additionally, we do have developed relationships at the local VA clinics and at Hines, as well as the Illinois Department of Employment Security, where there's a veterans employment representative, and the community colleges and universities where we receive referrals from too. So multi-pronged. But to your point, what we do different than the VA is we're not the VA. We're a county level governmental entity. We connect veterans with the VA. The VA cannot assist a veteran in filing a claim for benefits and then adjudicate that same claim. There's a conflict of interest there. So that's where we come in. We file those applications. We advocate for them, represent them, and then the VA adjudicates those. Sort of generic explanation.
Yeah, so that's been delegated to the county level, but it's very important, necessary service that you're providing. So excellent. Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have County Clerk. Mr. Pollack is in the house.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. Just quickie, we do also value automation, innovation, and efficiencies in our office. Not going to go into a lot of detail now. I got a little bit of our annual report. I can talk a little bit, but there are members that are new to the committee, so you'll hear about as we go along through our meetings. Although we love our staff, we're not trying to replace our staff with automation, but things like our DevNet system, our vote by mail processing helps us save money, but also uses our staff as well. Our monthly report is on file. We're ahead of last year already. Good numbers looking ahead for 2020 fiscal 23. I wanted to highlight a couple things in terms of 2022. Well, we're on the financials. We generated 1.6 million for the general fund. Looking back as far as I can see, I think that's our high water mark. So Clerk Cunningham likes to point out when he started in office, the general, we were bringing in 640,000 a year. We're up to 1.6 million. We found many different non-tax revenue based sources of revenue. Like, for example, now when people come and get their passports, we offer the passport photos. Instead of having to go to Walgreens, get your picture, and then come over here, we do it all. We're a one-stop shop. So it's an extra revenue source. We make a little bit on that passport application, plus the picture, and the constituents get better service than they get if they go somewhere else. So being the one-stop shop is important. So little things like that have helped raise that revenue. Our expenses were under budget. And, by being able to bring in that revenue and give it back to the general fund, we're helping keep the burden on taxpayers down. Vital records. We mentioned it throughout the year. We also set a record in terms of passport applications, 3,929 last year, about 500 more than any other year, and almost 70% more than last year. And last year, we started seeing a resurgence in travel. So it just really skyrocketed. Again, extra revenue coming in for the county. It's a good thing. Marriage licenses, about 10% over 2021, almost our high point. Tax redemptions, we processed 1,710 tax redemptions, about 20% increase over 2021. Basically, overall, we had about 10 or 11% more customers served in 2022. So trying to do more with less. In terms of elections, one thing I do want to point out, you may see signs out for early voting. Early voting actually began today. There is one race in Kane County. There's an aldermanic race in the 6th Ward of Aurora. So because there were 5 candidates that filed for that race, a consolidated primary is necessary. So you may see things out there about early voting and an election on February 28th. It applies to only the 6th Ward in the city of Aurora. So the way that the system is set up, it can lead to some confusion. We're trying to be very clear about it. And people may say, what, I'm supposed to vote? What? I don't know anything going on. Only that ward. The consolidated election for April 4th will be open to everyone because that'll include all of the races, school boards, city councils, library boards, park district boards, those things. So because this consolidated primary is happening on February 28th, the calendar gets pushed back a little bit because we have to certify that election before we can begin early voting and all those things for the second election. So the calendar shrinks a little bit. Normally, early voting begins 40 days before an election. So today we're 40 days before the February 28th election, but because this other election won't be till February 28th and it won't be certified till several weeks afterwards, the window of early voting and vote by mail, those things get condensed because we can't certify that winner of this February 28th election until that's done to put it on the ballot for the April election. So the information will be out there. We'll let you know what's going on, but just let your constituents know. You may see things about a February 28th election, only 6th Ward of Aurora, and then the big election on April 4th for everyone. Just get that out there. Okay.
It's not confusing.
Yeah. It's not gonna be this rough either. When we're running 3 elections at a time usually. So back to the year in review. We had the 2 elections last year. We had 2 major elections in 2022. We welcomed a record number of poll watchers for the elections. We made election security presentations to dozens of community organizations. We increased our transparency and security. That was seen in the people that came to view the process during the election, after the election, and everything. And one of our highlights, we mentioned it briefly at the last month's meeting. We were selected as one of the 10 election authorities in the country as a U.S. Center for Election Excellence. We went through a rigorous application process. They came out to interview us, see our setup. They were impressed by our transparency, our accessibility, our security measures. One thing we're proud to report is with that distinction, there's also a grant. We received the first installment of our grant for $650,000. So I would be depositing that, and the grant is for election improvements. No strings on how it can be used. We're working on how we're going to do that. But obviously we've talked before about the capital improvements that we need in terms of elections. So there's plenty of opportunities for it, but we've been blessed to have received other grants in the past, whether it was for our vote by mail automation system, for our election security to improve the cameras and those things. So we are a little ahead of the game, but there are still some, when you have voting machines from 2006, we still have needs that are out there. So we're working on the plan on how we're going to spend the money. But we're grateful for it and looking forward to improving our election system.
What was the name of that award again?
We are, get it right, a U.S. Center for Election Excellence.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
And do you, I mean, it might be too early to tell. I know you guys have a request and I wear a couple hats with the ARPA committee for potential updates to the election equipment. Would this impact that, you think, or is it too early to know how you might utilize it?
We'll just say that our needs for new equipment exceed what we've asked you for and this.
Yeah, okay. Gotcha. All right. Any questions or comments for clerk's office? County clerk's office? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Other business, I have none. Anyone else? No. Executive session, no need today. Someone asked for unanimous consent to place the reports on file.
Debbie moves.
Deputy asked for unanimous consent. No objections. Reports are placed on file, and I just need a motion and a second to adjourn.
Motion to
Gums will
adjourn.
move. Gums will
Williams.
second.
Williams moves, Gum seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed, go anyway. We are done. Speaking of
Thank
officials.